But no, I didn't get that shot.
Mm.
No way. You did, though.
I did not.
I know.
Alex Jones told me not to.
I do everything Alex Jones told me not to.
Common sense told me not to.
I got it right here on the napkin.
The documents.
The documents on the napkin. Right here.
All right. Welcome back to the Dirty Hands of the Republic. I'm Tom Nixon. I'm with Joe Fenwick here today. And we have a very special guest. He is a retired commander from the Houston Police Department. So before we begin, Captain Stevens, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney.
That's Miranda.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Welcome to DHR. So tell us.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Who you are, where you're from.
All right. We'll get right into it. Retired commander.
Shut up, asshole.
Retired HPD after 30 years. Well, let me start at the beginning. No. I did 30 years with HPD from February of 91 when I got out of the academy to February of 21 when I retired. Ultimately reached, as you said, the prestigious rank of commander, which I never cared for, but we'll get into that. Captain really is the preferable title. Grew up in Detroit. Never had an inkling or interest in any way, shape, or form in law enforcement. Oddly enough, I come from what might be classified as a law enforcement family, as my father was a police officer in Cleveland in the 50s and then was chief of police for a couple of different universities in the Detroit area. But he wore a suit and carried a gun, and I never really made the connection that he was law enforcement growing up. I did have an older brother who moved to Houston in 1980 after getting married to a gal who was born and raised in the Valley. One by one, all the brothers, there were 3 other brothers.
Was that the Rio Grande Valley?
The Rio Grande Valley, yes. All three other brothers then moved to Texas over the years. I got here in 1989. After graduating from Michigan State, where I obtained a bachelor's degree in, as we discussed earlier, a very law enforcement related field of sculpture. Anyway, I ended up in Texas looking for a job. My brother was already on HPD. He had joined around 1985. And I was looking for work in kind of a graphic design field, which was kind of an alternative artistic ventures that I did in college, and wasn't finding any employment. And my brother just simply suggested I ride along with him, check out police work.
At HPD?
At HPD.
Were you exploring alternative lifestyles while getting your sculpture degrey?
No, I never went that route. No exploration in college, as they say. It was just a phase. No, completely straight.
Did you lose a bet?
No. No.
Did your father tell you, I want you to get the most useless college education you can possibly get?
To say that my dad was mildly disappointed is an understatement. And it took me years. I was going to school full-time, then part-time, and then back to full-time, and then back to part-time. It took me a long time, but I finally persevered. And the entire reason why I ended up getting the sculpture degree, I took classes in everything. I had interest in a lot of different things, but had no clear path to a career, which, a lot of 18 to 21-year-olds don't. My own son's going through this right now. And so I'm taking classes in everything: anthropology, psychology, Chinese, advertising, and all the basics as well. And I always came back to taking a few art classes here and there because I've always had an aptitude for art. And next thing you know, I'm working full-time, going to school part-time. I'm working part-time, going to school full-time, and it's just dragging on. And I realized that I had taken enough art classes, fine arts, that if I just concentrate on getting a few upper-level courses out of the way, I could finally get my degree and leave. So I had to do that, and could have done a graphic design degree, but for whatever reason, I picked sculpture. It was a lot of fun. It was very creative. I did a lot of bronze casting and just all kinds of stuff, and obtained a degree, ended up in Houston.
Is that on your resume?
Just the Bachelor of Arts, Fine Arts is all it says. No details.
Does it say major in sculpture?
No, it doesn't. I left that part off.
What was your thesis, or what was your final project to get your degree?
Well, it's funny you ask. To do like a final project, you do have to basically do it's not called a thesis, but it's a major artwork. And remember, this is mid to late 80s. Claymation was the thing back then. Remember the dancing grapes?
Yeah.
And all that? That was huge. So I didn't have the technology or the video camera to do stop animation, but I built an entire menagerie of characters. They weren't grapes, but they were different characters that I built, and they were all made with the the underlying wire sculptures underneath the clay, so you could manipulate them. You could do an animated feature if you had the camera. I just had no money and had no access to the camera, so I built an entire collection of all these various characters and things, and some of them were related to each other. Some of them were just sculptures, but it was all clay and all very colorful, and I thought it was pretty cool. And I kept none of it. I thought in the back of my head that this was so useless in life. But I needed to do it to get the degree. That once I finished it, presented everything to my final professor, I just left them there. I left them in the art department. I don't know. People may have taken them home. They may have cooked them to harden them, or I don't know, thrown them away. Janitors probably came in and just cleaned the table. But it was good, and he gave me a great grade, and I was finally done. So. But yeah, no practical application. But in my own defense, my oldest sister said, because it was like a running joke in the family, because I would never finish college. They're like, just get a degree in something so you can get the hell out of there, And I was pretty much emancipated at that point. I was on my own. I'd been living with a girlfriend and had my own apartment and everything. I never went home after probably my second year at college. So I just got the degree and then started looking for work. And
when you applied to law school, and they were, oh my God, we've never had a degreed sculptor.
I don't know what they thought. And I should have asked them. And also when I was deposed once by an attorney, and he looked at my resume and he's like, okay. He's like, my God, you're like a Renaissance man. You're a police. I don't remember what rank I was at that time. You've got an art degree and you're a lawyer. And he was very impressed. But the bottom line is I needed to get the degree, get out of there. I did have the graphic design experience from working for the school newspaper, and Michigan State's paper. It's kind of like, I don't know, maybe UT.
I know what paper is.
It's like a newspaper.
They had it when I was growing up.
Full-blown paper, though. It's not like just some little tiny little handbill, It's a full-blown newspaper, 20, 30, 50 pages.
Yes.
Anyway, so it was a good experience. Moved to Texas.
They kind of went away with payphones, though. Payphones and newspapers went extinct.
But did a ride along with my brother a couple of times at Beach Nut. He worked 17 districts, 1710's beat, actually.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this is interesting. And it's nothing like what I imagined police work to be, as most people who, don't know people in the business.
Was he on evening shift or night shift?
He was on night shift.
Okay, so I was there in 1995, 96, 97.
He was gone.
98.
He quit in 94. So I rode along with him somewhere.
Oh, he went to law school too.
He was finishing
now he's
law
a lawyer.
school actually at that point.
Okay.
I got here in December of 89, and I probably did my ride-alongs with him somewhere around maybe February. It was winter. February of 1990, I was riding along with him, working some part-time job, and filled out the massive application that you have to fill out with ADD.
Right.
Kind of felt like forever I was waiting, but I mean, from April or so to August is no time at all. And next thing I knew, it was August of 1990, I was starting the police academy.
Okay.
And the rest is history. Got out in February of 91, gave the speech at our graduation, which was a hoot.
Oh, so did I.
And I only did it because the 2 or 3 guys in my class, if you're watching, they were decent guys, but dry, like boring. And
what'd you talk about in your speech?
They would have given the most boring, terrible speech. So I said, I'll do it. And I have tremendous fear of speaking in front of groups at that time. I got over it, but it was probably the most terrifying thing I'd ever done in my life up to that point. Tons of jokes, making fun of guys, because everybody's standing behind you or seated behind you, whatever, at the graduation. Poking fun at people and making fun of myself, of course. And I just remember I had no drink. I had no water up at the podium. And oh my God, my mouth was completely dry. And I was like trying to wet my gums and everything. And guys were all jacking with me afterward. What the hell were you doing, man? I said, man, my mouth was so dry. I couldn't barely talk. But anyway, got through that. actually ended up out at Westside. Did my training at Westside, which was the gold chains and the image. Maybe Westside didn't have that image when you came on, but
they did. Yeah,
it did.
The gold chain.
Everyone tapered their pants.
The tapered pants, gold chains. Yeah,
ended out at Westside.
Everybody wore skinny jeans at Westside or skinny pants.
None of that was true, but it was a great place to learn. I worked right Bel Air in South Gessner was the heart of my beat, 18G60s beat.
Yeah.
Loved it. It was busy, a lot of violent crime, a lot of apartment complexes, a lot of disturbances. A great place to cut my teeth as an officer, I thought. The notion that Westside was like nothing going on out there and all that. Well, maybe 20 district, whatever, but 18 district, 19 district, plenty going on. So got a lot of great experience working out there at Westside. About 1994, I transferred to Central for no other reason that I knew a couple of people who worked Central and said, "Oh, it's a pretty good place to work." And there were some weird things going on with a lieutenant out there, Lieutenant Georgie, on evening shift. I don't know if you ever heard about him, but there's just I didn't really pay much attention to it back then because I was clueless. I laugh because I barely knew who my captain was back then, and I remember now it was Thaler. Thaler was our captain when I was at Westside when I first came on, but I had very much not aware of who the lieutenant was, other than he stirred up a hornet's nest and a bunch of people left. But I didn't leave for that reason. I ended up at Central. Worked exclusively, really, 2 district. So 2 Adam 10s beat, 2 Adam 20s beat.
It's at the Heights.
Yep, just out there by the Heights, just north of downtown.
When did you start to promote?
I did the patrol thing I got to Central in 94 and I left patrol in 2004. And I had got my law degree in that interim. I started law school in 96, finished in 2000. Talked to you and another commander about law school, I remember, in early 2000s.
Right. Wait, because that's where I met you.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm almost positive it was you and Matt approached me and said, "Hey, we got some questions about law school."
Yes.
And Matt had ridden with me when he first got out of the academy.
Okay.
And so that's how I knew him. And I just met you then. And I think I gave you guys some decent advice,
Right now he's going, "Don't mention
work this shift, not that shift, save money, don't accrue a lot of student debt, blah, blah, blah." And basically, I think I told you more than anything, it's just a grind.
Oh, it is.
Not rocket science.
It's a marathon.
It's just a grind. So if you can stick it out, you'll be fine. Went from patrol in 2004 up to Chief's Command Legal Services. And I was there for 5 years. And while I was there, took the sergeant's test. So I'm up in legal. I promote. I do the sergeant's training, and I get the perk of coming back to legal. At the time, it seemed like a perk. And we discussed this.
You get a take-home car?
Time. The weekends off, the day shift, the access to overtime, the take-home car. It was all very seductive. And I had young kids at the time, so or at least one. I had one son at the time. So that was very enticing. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have gotten out of legal. I would have opted out of going back to legal. I would have done my time as a patrol sergeant. Would have saved me probably a lot of grief. But I stayed up there for, I guess, 5 years total. I promoted in 2006. So another 3 years and left involuntarily, which we can talk about or not talk about. Ended up out at Midwest as a patrol sergeant. And from there, I had taken the lieutenant's test at that point, but had been, I don't want to get into it, but I had been bypassed by Chief Hurt. Over an ID complaint. And I owned up to the underlying infraction, but I thought the department's discipline and reaction was way over the top. So I was removed from legal. I was given 15-day suspension, and then I was bypassed on the lieutenant's test. So I arbitrated the suspension, got it reduced, arbitrated the bypass, got that overturned. So I promoted to lieutenant in 2010. Went to traffic enforcement as the admin lieutenant, worked there for a couple of years, went back to Westside, and I was I forget what they called it, community services / DRT unit. I was the lieutenant over that. One sergeant, maybe 10 or 12 officers, fantastic assignment, great sergeant, great officers, loved it. Decided to take the captain's test, which would have been 3rd test in a row. I was a little bit burned out at that point. Took it anyway, did well enough to promote. So I left that assignment, which Had I not promoted to captain, I would have stayed in that assignment. That was an awesome assignment. Promoted to captain, 14, went to Clear Lake for my first assignment. I don't think I'd ever even stepped foot in that station before. Reunited with some old friends that worked out there that I hadn't seen in a long time. 3 years I was their captain, which used to be old school. They'd leave you somewhere for a long time, but then they started to change things. But keeping me there for 3 years was kind of unusual, and I loved it. That was a fantastic assignment.
Did you ever go to NASA?
Oh, yeah. I'm proud to say I forged some fantastic ties with the NASA people. I really did. I mean, they reached out to me, and I took it and ran with it and met a bunch of great people, the Johnson Space Center people.
Yeah. Did you ever go to like the mission control or something?
Oh yeah. Yeah. They gave me the behind the scenes tour, the one you don't get from the public. So we'll wrap it up. But yes, I did. And I thought I did a good job of forging, because what they wanted mostly initially was if there was some kind of a rapid deployment needed into NASA for whatever reason, because they get threats, and sometimes they get some engineers that lose a marble or two and maybe go off. They wanted to coordinate with us on some kind of a rapid response. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm happy to do that. We got to know how to get in, where to go, familiarize our people with the different buildings. Where's everything? And I just met a lot of great people, and they were fantastic to work with. And then when I left, I kind of turned it over to Dana Hitzman. She took over Clear Lake, and I think she took it and ran with it even further. And yeah, the relationship with NASA and Clear Lake, I thought was fantastic. A lot of good people down there.
Where'd you go after that?
Left there, and I was rewarded. As Chief Finner told me, for doing such a great job, they sent me to Hobby, which sounds on its face like it might be a great assignment. I'm not saying it was a horrible assignment. A lot of great people there. But because it was so small and they had access to more overtime money than anybody else practically, other than maybe, I don't know, homicide or narcotics. But everything was funded through the airport. So they got just tons of overtime, and it just became a couple of bad apples always fighting and griping over access to more overtime or access to whatever. And so it was about 50 people total. And like I said, there was maybe, 2 or 3 people that were always kind of stirring the pot, maybe 4. So it made it a much more difficult assignment than running Clear Lake, which is considered small, but it was probably 120, 130 people, total. And so 2 years at Hobby, left there, got sent to, I was told by Chief Acevedo himself that had I done a patrol assignment already, they'd never send you back to patrol. He wanted to rotate people around, give his commanders all this diversified experience. So I'd probably go to an investigative division or whatever. And I lobbied hard to go to either what is it called? Air support, air supply, as some people call it. Ignorant people.
Oh, wait. So Hobby isn't in charge of Fox?
No. And I think it was, Jay, what's Jay's name? I can't remember his name. He's retired now, but he was over it. And I said, hey, I remember telling Satterwhite, I'll lateral right here from Hobby over into that air support spot. That'd be great. No, Jerome, that's a coveted position. That has to go to, some much more senior captain or whatever. I don't remember who they sent over there. But I did end up getting rotated back into patrol. I went to North. And I remember asking Larry Bainbridge, I said, am I being punished? North's busy, it's big, it's, big headaches is what I've kind of surmised. And he goes, oh no, North's a great place to work. You're going to love it there. And I'm thinking, whatever. They're screwing me over, sending me from Hobby out to North. And there was a backstory to that too. I think, I can't even remember anybody's names anymore.
It's okay.
This guy, Bellamy, big guy, Bellamy. Yeah. He was supposed to go from somewhere to North, and I was supposed to go somewhere else. And somebody lobbied for him to stay in his position a little longer, and I was the odd man out, which turns out to be a recurring theme. And I ended up going to North. Well, I love North. I was at North for about a year and a half, and it takes about a year to really kind of just settle in, get to know all your admin people, get to know all your people, and get a feel for the area, and just kind of be comfortable doing your job as a captain. After about a year and 6 more months, I get yanked and sent to traffic enforcement because they yanked a commander out of IED who wasn't apparently, a yes man enough and was being pulled, and they simply asked him, well, we're going to pull you. So where do you want to go? We'll give you a choice. And he, well, I used to work at North. I liked it there. Can I go to North? Well, guess who's the odd man out now? I ended up back in traffic enforcement, which wasn't so bad because I had worked in traffic enforcement as an admin lieutenant. But ultimately, that proved to be my final assignment. And I was there, got there around Thanksgiving-ish of 2020. And by February of 21, I was gone. I'd retired. So